You're listening to an Ono Media podcast.
Good morning, and thanks for joining me for Rise in Crime, your morning caffeine hit all about crime. I'm Mama Jules, and we have a conclusion to the murder trial out of Kentucky where Jordan Henning was facing murder charges for shooting his wife, Ashley. All of it being caught on the home's surveillance cameras, this back in June of 2023. So who are Ashley and Jordan? Ashley joined the military in 2005 at the age of 18, where she eventually served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kuwait. This as a master sergeant in the Army. She had been assigned to Fort Knox, Kentucky, along with her husband, 30-year-old Jordan Henning. And Jordan, who was also in the military, well, he had a similar service record to Ashley. Together, the two had 3 children. Now, Ashley was raising her 2 sons from a previous relationship, and Jordan was doing much the same. He had a daughter from a previous relationship that he had custody of. The couple's marriage was tumultuous, with rumors of both physical and emotional abuse. And it seemed the rumors were happening on both sides. As Ashley neared her 37th birthday, her friend Janie Savat and her husband Brandon Savat wanted to put together an impromptu birthday party in honor of Ashley's special day. The two said they had seen the marital discord. No physical abuse, but just a continued fighting between the two. And Ashley really wasn't on board with this party. But with some encouragement, the festivities happened in Ashley and Jordan's yard. During the party, that included multiple friends, Ashley and Jordan began fighting again. The fighting became so uncomfortable that the partygoers slowly disbanded, leaving Ashley and Jordan to clean up. Allegedly, during the fight in front of the partygoers, Jordan put his hand around Ashley's neck in anger. Even with that red flag, friends said they didn't believe they needed to be worried about Ashley that night. Well, the argument between the two moved indoors as Ashley started cleaning dishes in the kitchen. Now, I watched the footage of the extended argument caught on the Nest camera that was located in the living room of the home. Jordan screams at Ashley about how he felt berated by her and that she doesn't love him. And you can't really see the initial argument inside the home with this angle from the Nest camera because it's occurring in the kitchen. But several minutes of raised voices, that all happens during which time 2 different children show some extreme distress as they leave the kitchen area. What happens here is an older teen boy named Ty. Well, he runs up the stairs, leaving the kitchen, almost as if he's hiding from his mother and stepfather. And then there's a young boy, about 9 years old. His name is Carter. Well, he flees through the front door when the voices become so angry. And it also seems that Jordan begins threatening violence at this point. Now, remember, Jordan has a daughter, and that daughter is upstairs in her bedroom in the home at this time. Well, at some point during the footage, Ashley walks through the living room, texting on her phone, and then she tucks the phone in her back pocket before heading upstairs, where she implores her son and daughter to stay in their rooms. Remember, the younger boy has gone next door to the neighbor's house. And while Ashley goes up the stairs, Jordan chases her, and he's very angry. I mean, you can see the tenseness in his body. Well, all of this occurs over more than a 10-minute span, almost close to 20 minutes, which, if I was a jury member, I might have theorized that there was time for someone to walk away, for someone in this fight to maybe take a breath and get control of themselves. Now, arguments happen between couples. I understand that, but this one seems extended. Remember, we don't have footage of the party outside, then they bring it inside, and this footage lasts for like 20 minutes, and it's going on for a long time. All right, the young son, Carter, he fled for help. Well, he ended up contacting 2 neighbors, Jason Bacher and Jimmy Watts. Now, Jimmy, he tried to intervene in the fight between Ashley and Jordan. Jimmy entered the home, because Carter had said his dad was trying to hurt his mom. So what's Jimmy going to do? He's going to go inside the house. And he said he tried to de-escalate the situation happening between Ashley and Jordan. Well, Jimmy said Jordan got physical with him and allegedly placed him in a headlock, all while threatening him. After tussling for a few minutes, Jimmy escaped the headlock and Jordan forced him out the door onto the deck of the house. When Jimmy exited the home, he came into contact with Jason. Remember, he's the other neighbor. And Jimmy told Jason to call 911. Well, at this point, neighbors are kind of gathering outside. The fight is apparent, and the details about the fight are spreading amongst the neighbors. Jimmy tells the neighbors that Jordan felt disrespected by Ashley at the party, and then Jimmy places the 911 call himself, requesting help in separating the two. That's when gunshots rang out from the home. There were 4 quicker shots, then a delay, and then a 5th shot. Jordan then ran from the home, got in his car, and fled. So what happened between the time Jimmy left the home and Jordan shooting Ashley? Well, more camera footage detailed by investigators explains that Ashley had sat down at the kitchen table, and then Jordan continues to just yell at her. He then ran to his bedroom to grab a gun. When he returned, Ashley pled with him to put the gun down, and then Jordan tells her the night is going to end in death. He tells her what is about to occur is all her fault. He then shoots Ashley 4 times in the chest and the abdomen. She stumbles from the table trying to escape, and Jordan exits the room to grab another magazine for his gun. On the video, you can hear Ashley moaning in pain. After loading the gun, Jordan shoots Ashley a 5th time. He then spits on her body. Now, we're all caught up to Jordan fleeing the home. After the short manhunt to capture Jordan, police were able to apprehend him, and body cam footage from the capture was made available to the public. Here, I'm going to have you give it a listen.
Well, we're going to have to do this anyway, so. Alrighty, man. Hey, first things first. All right. Can you hear me okay?
I just wanted the abuse to stop.
Okay. Hey, man, I get it. Hey, boss, can you hear me okay? Okay. Hey, man, I have to read you this, okay? Before I ask you any questions about what's gone on tonight, okay? This is something that I have to do, okay?
Now, for me, it seems clear Jordan is admitting to killing his wife, and he doesn't want to be alive anymore either. Police went on and arrested him following this interaction, and they charged him with murdering Ashley. Well, following almost 2 years of investigation and preparation, the trial began in mid-March of this year, with the state saying they had a clear-cut case, it's on video, of Jordan shooting his wife. The defense attorney said, yeah, Jordan shot his wife, but it was after years of verbal, emotional, and physical abuse by his wife, where Jordan finally broke following the embarrassing party spat. Now, the defense said Ashley outranked Jordan and was older than him, and that created a power dynamic that Ashley would exploit in their marriage. During the trial, Jimmy, that's the friend who came over and tried to break up the fight, well, he took the stand not once, but twice. First time, he explained how he entered the home on that night, but he returned to the stand to discuss how Jordan had shown him a top 10 kill list. Jordan had allegedly explained the list to Jimmy, saying these were people he feared, and the list also included supplies he would need to accomplish the deeds, to, accomplish the murders. Most of those concepts, the supplies he would need and the people he would want to murder, well, they were all couched in a concept of end of days, when the world reached apocalyptic standards and it would be survival of the fittest. So there's a little bit of, make-believe to this list, but enough that, Jimmy's concerned. Well, after Jimmy took the stand, Ashley's friend Janie, she took the stand. She talked all about the ruined party and the domestic unrest between Ashley and Jordan. During her testimony, she got a little theatrical, mocking the defense team for trying to get Jordan off on the charges by floating the idea he was insane. She also testified that Jordan had joked about claiming either PTSD or effects from testosterone if he ever got in trouble for killing a person, which is, I guess, a funny joke if you're Jordan. I don't know. Now, Jordan's 13-year-old daughter named Brinley, she took the stand for the state, not the defense. And she didn't testify there in front of everybody. She was off camera with audio only, describing the argument she heard from her room on that June evening. Now, the whole testifying off camera and audio only, well, that was quite the dust-up in the courtroom. See, Brinley said, and this was just hours before she was to be called, that she was scared to testify in front of her father because she had been abused by her father. Okay, that seemed to be a new revelation, and the defense deemed those accusations as, quote, trial by ambush, meaning it was potentially made up to harm his client Jordan and prejudice the jury. Well, the prosecution then closed out their case by playing the videos from the Nest camera. It's disturbing, you guys. I will say Jordan looks laser focused on what he needs to do to end Ashley's life. Now, I can't speak to his state of mind, but I can say he clearly knew what he needed to accomplish. Well, when the defense opened their case, they called 2 retired high-ranking sergeants to testify about Jordan's nonviolent and honest reputation. And then Jordan took the stand, where he apologized for shooting his wife, saying, quote, I destroyed lives that day. He explained that after Jimmy entered his home, he just broke. He went into a chaotic fog of rage, and that afterwards, he didn't remember the exact moments of the shooting. He said when he watched the Nest camera footage there in court, he didn't recognize himself, saying he had never seen himself act like that before. He said that the physical abuse from Ashley started right after they married in 2016. He testified that the fight outside near the slip and slide at Ashley's birthday party, well, he said that humiliated him. When the state cross-examined Jordan, they forced him to explain in detail the 20-minute fight caught on the Nest camera. By the end of the video, Jordan was sobbing in his hands on the stand. The state peppered Jordan about why he got the gun in the first place, why he went for it if he wasn't planning on killing her, and all of this without the defense objecting, which is kind of weird that they let it go on. Now, the prosecution claimed that Jordan got the gun to kill Ashley because he knew that first responders were already on their way, thanks to Jimmy calling 911, and that meant Jordan's military career would be over. So why not just end his wife's life? Well, Jordan said that wasn't true. He shot back that he was scared for his life because Jimmy said he was going to go back to his home and retrieve his gun and then return to break up the fight. Well, following the very emotional testimony by Jordan, the defense then called an Army National Guard psychologist who testified that Jordan had experienced an extreme emotional disturbance on that evening, and it was brought on by ongoing marital strife, the added fight with Jimmy, there was alcohol in his system, and then he was suffering side effects of the testosterone that he was taking. That expert testified that all those combined factors could have precluded Jordan from making sound judgments that night. The psychologist did clarify that Jordan was not clinically insane. He was fit for trial. Well, by day 6 of the trial, the jury heard closing arguments. And swiftly, just after 4 hours, they returned with a verdict of guilty for the lesser offense of first-degree manslaughter. The returned verdict indicated to those present in the courtroom the jury opted for a lesser conviction because they might have believed he did snap that night. After all of that, the jury then deliberated for only 10 more minutes before returning with a suggestion of the highest amount of time that could be served for the conviction. That's 20 years in prison. Well, after that was told to the courtroom, volatile testimony was then offered by Marine Chief Warrant Officer John Williams. Okay, he's Ashley's cousin. He railed from the stand during the sentencing hearing, saying the jury were all cowards for not finding Jordan guilty of the higher charge. The judge silenced John, saying he wouldn't allow him to, quote, sully his name or the court with his outburst. When Jordan eventually left the courtroom, John yelled after him, saying, "Look at me." Now, Kentucky law mandates that Jordan receive the sentence the jury recommended, meaning Jordan has a sentence of 20 years. But he could get out after 17 years when he becomes eligible for parole. After all of the courtroom showdown during the sentencing between John and Jordan, John told Court TV that he couldn't understand how any jury member could see the video of Jordan shooting Ashley and then come away with the decision of manslaughter. Ashley's friend Janie She told Court TV that she felt racial bias played a role. See, Ashley's black and Jordan is white. Janie said only one juror was black, and that juror was an alternate. So the deliberating jury was all white because the alternate was dismissed. She said the following: if the tables had been turned and she had killed her white husband, she would have been held accountable and done more than 20 years. I just feel the whole entire system failed her. Now, the most tragic part of these type of crime stories for me, the ones where both mother and father are either lost to murder and then to the prison system or vice versa, well, it leaves me aching for the children left parentless. The source material does not name where the kids have been living, but Jordan's daughter, Brinley, was fully integrated into their lives. And based upon all that I read, I would theorize that Ashley's family is stepping up and they are caring for both of the boys and also Brinley. Let's all hope they can find a less painful path as they navigate this new family reality. And this quick story out of Hiawassee, Georgia, where on March 8th, twin 19-year-old brothers Kadir Malik Lewis and Nazir Rahim Lewis were found atop Bell Mountain. They were dead from an apparent murder-suicide. Now, that's what the Georgia Bureau of Investigations is determining after their preliminary investigation. They're still working on it, but this is what they're saying right now. Telehealth has really changed the game when it comes to mental health care. It's more convenient and accessible for so many people. But let's be real, there are still big hurdles. Finding the right therapist, not easy. Scheduling appointments, that's a hassle. And don't even get me started on the cost. Out-of-pocket expenses can be a deal breaker for so many. Are you not sure what kind of care you need? Rula's got you. Now, I know in previous times in my life, paying for mental health care has been a challenge. What a relief that Rula works with you to make mental health care easy and affordable. No more guesswork on how am I going to pay for this. I wish Rula had been available for me years ago. Head on over to rula.com/rise to get started today. After you sign up, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Go to rula.com/rise and take the first step towards better mental health today. You deserve quality care from someone who cares. Okay, but that's not even close to where these young men were supposed to be. They each had a plane ticket in their pocket for a trip to visit friends in Boston. They missed that 7 a.m. flight from Atlanta to Boston, and instead, they were found later that morning by hikers in a somewhat frequented area of Bell Mountain. Bell Mountain is 2.5 hours from the Atlanta airport. It's not even close to where they were supposed to be. Now, the family was devastated with the news, and they do disagree with the preliminary findings by the GBI. Rahim Bronner, okay, that's the uncle to the twin young men, well, he said the brothers were inseparable and that he couldn't imagine them hurting each other because he had never even seen them get physical with each other before. He also questions the location, saying the following to WXIA. How did they end up on that mountain? They don't hike out there. They've never been out there. They don't know anything about Hiawassee, Georgia. They never even heard of Bell Mountain. So how did they end up there? All right, Hiawassee, Georgia. For this family, that area has become even more painful. First, their boys were found dead with gunshot wounds in that area. And now, a volunteer firefighter has been charged with misdemeanor obstruction of an investigation. Okay, that charge sounds minor, maybe, right? You don't think that that's going to be a big deal. It's a misdemeanor. But this family doesn't think it's minor because 42-year-old Scott Curlin has been fired from the volunteer fire department and charged with obstruction after he took photos of the crime scene and of Nazir and Kadir and then shared them publicly. Where he shared them? It isn't listed in the source material, but the photos did end up circulating through the Towns County School District. The school superintendent said the photo was shared among several students and that they took appropriate steps to ensure that the photo was no longer in the possession of any student within the school district. All right, in the digital age, I'm not sure how they accomplished that, but that's what they told WXIA in their statement. Now, the superintendent also said the students were unaware of the illegal nature of how the photo was distributed. Now, Towns County School District is in Hiawassee. It's not in Lawrenceville, where the twins were from. And Lawrenceville and Hiawassee, they're about a 2-hour drive from one another. Well, the autopsies for the young men have been completed. And as the family awaits the results, the twins' aunt told WXIA that she is scared to death to go on social media or pick up her phone to answer an incoming message for fear that she will see a picture of her nephews at the crime scene. Now, the punishment for the crime of misdemeanor obstruction includes jail time of up to 1 year and a fine of up to $1,000. I would offer that the best punishment here is that Scott, the photo leaker and the volunteer firefighter, well, he will no longer be working with sensitive information. And speaking of photos and using them inappropriately, an offensive coordinator for the University of Michigan's football team had quite the illegal hobby going on. According to his Wikipedia page, 42-year-old Matt Weiss was a standout quarterback in high school, leading his New England prep school to a 12-0 record his senior year. He then went on to attend Vanderbilt University, but he didn't play on the football team as a QB. He walked on the team and served as the third-string punter for 2 seasons. But Matt did the time. He started at a high school as an assistant coach for 2 years. After graduation, he then transferred for schooling to Stanford, where he was a special teams coach for the football team for 3 years. Matt was then picked up by the Baltimore Ravens, where during his 11-year stint, the Ravens enjoyed a Super Bowl win. While at the Ravens, he worked for Coach John Harbaugh, and then he left there to go work for Jim Harbaugh, okay, that's John's brother, at the University of Michigan. So yes, Matt has enjoyed career success coaching for the Harbaugh brothers. But during the 2 years at U of M, an investigation was launched into Matt's illegal hobby. Matt's not a dumb guy. In fact, he's pretty smart. And he allegedly learned how to manipulate the databases he had access to. Then, using that data and the internet, Matt allegedly obtained access to various social media accounts and student emails and even iCloud storage accounts. All in all, he allegedly accessed information on over 2,000 athletes and 1,300 students and alumni from not just the University of Michigan, but from other universities across the entire country. The U.S. Attorney's Office for Michigan says Matt then downloaded personal, intimate photos and videos that were never intended to be shared beyond their intimate partners. So, he has people's intimate digital history, but he's also downloaded their medical data and their passwords. And this guy is a data nerd. He would allegedly target mostly female athletes at numerous colleges, like I mentioned, then build profiles for these athletes that included photos and videos and notes about their bodies and also comments about their sexual preferences. The Attorney General said he also had like a type. He targeted certain women based on their physical characteristics. It seems the FBI and the university were working together to uncover Matt's snooping tendencies, and then the university quietly fired Matt in January of 2023, citing a termination following a review of university policies. Well, after nearly 2 more years of investigation following that firing, Matt now has been charged with 24 counts, 14 counts of unauthorized access to computers, and 10 counts of aggravated identity theft. Now, if the charges remain as is, like I just said they were, Matt could face up to 5 years in prison for each of the 14 counts of unauthorized access to the computers. It's a little more heavy-handed for the 10 counts of aggravated identity theft. For each count, if found guilty, Matt would be required to serve a minimum of 2 years in prison, and those sentences must run consecutively, one after another. So, say he's found guilty for all 10 counts. The minimum time would be 20 years in prison. Now, Matt's attorney is not responding to calls for comment. As a side note, do you know what a quarterback's coach at a big university like University of Michigan makes as a yearly salary? Matt was pulling in $850,000 a year, with an additional $400,000 in bonuses if the team performed well. That is crazy to me. Let me know what you think of this story. And since we're weaving threads here through today's podcast, the last two stories about photos being accessed when they shouldn't have been, well, this story, like the last one, is involving football. Specifically, the Georgia Bulldogs football program and their excessive number of charges, over 30 in the last 2 years, of speeding, reckless driving, DUIs, and racing. And just last week, 2 more Georgia football players are in trouble. But let's start with what happened 2 years ago, following the celebration of the team's national championship, and then we'll build on it from there. On January 15th of 2023 at 2:45 a.m., Chandler LaCroix, now she's a 24-year-old recruiting analyst for the Georgia Bulldogs. Well, Chandler was driving a Ford Expedition. And All-American Jalen Carter, he plays for the Georgia Bulldogs, well, he was driving a Jeep Trackhawk. So the 2 SUVs, they're street racing. And yes, alcohol was involved. Chandler's blood alcohol content was 0.197. That's twice the legal limit in Georgia. Inside Chandler's SUV were Georgia football players Devin Willock and Warren McClendon. And then there was another female recruiting staffer named Tori Bowles. The racing between the 2 SUVs, driven by Chandler and Jalen, well, it reached speeds of more than 100 miles per hour. Chandler, at some point, hit a curb, causing the SUV to veer off the road. Chandler struck 2 utility poles, downing 1 pole, and effectively cutting her SUV in half. Devin wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and he was ejected from the car. He died at the scene. Chandler was transported to a regional hospital where she died a short time later. The other football player, Warren, he had to receive stitches, but was otherwise fine. And the other female, Tori, she had severe injuries, but has since recovered. When Chandler's car hit the utility poles, she was traveling at 83 miles per hour. This was a tragedy for the Georgia Bulldogs, but it was also a glaring example of the team's consistent breaking of speed laws and other traffic violations. Jalen Carter, the driver of the other street racing SUV, had previously been cited for traffic violations 3 different times during the fall semester, twice by campus authorities and once by the Athens Police Department. And these aren't tickets for illegal parking. One of the tickets was for traveling at 89 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. Jalen was eventually charged with reckless driving and street racing that was related to the crash involving Chandler's SUV. For that ticket, he received 12 months probation and a $1,000 fine. Now, Tori Bowles, remember, she was in the car. She went on to sue the university for allowing Chandler access to a university automobile and also allowing her to drink on the job. That lawsuit was settled and the results are non-disclosed. And Jalen, well, he was sued by both Devin Willock's family and Tori Bowles. Both those civil suits are still pending. Clearly, athletes and staff associated with the Georgia Bulldogs have some driving issues. And like I said, last week we added 2 more to the pile of problems. A wide receiver named Nitro Tuggle. Yes, his name is Nitro and he has a speeding problem. Well, Nitro was arrested on Thursday for misdemeanor charges of reckless driving and speeding. Details of his incident have not been shared publicly. We do know it happened in the middle of the night, and he did post a $26 bond and was out of jail after about an hour. And then a week ago, Marquise Easley, he's an offensive lineman for the team. Well, he allegedly recklessly drove his 2026 Dodge Challenger into a tailspin. And of course, he has a Dodge Challenger, and of course, it's a 2026. Okay, it seems when Marquise spun out and left the roadway, he struck a Walton EMC power box. Pinballing off the power box, the driver's side of the Challenger then hit the passenger side of a Hyundai, which caused the Hyundai to ricochet into a Mercedes. When he was first contacted by police at the scene, Marquise said he was driving about 25 to 30 miles per hour. After the investigators talked with everyone and looked at the scene, they came to understand that Marquise wasn't driving 25 miles per hour. Instead, he was, quote, laying drag, which I guess in Georgia means spinning. In Idaho, we call that doing donuts. And it's super easy in a wide open parking lot in the wintertime here. Not speaking from experience or anything, but I did say wide open in a parking lot, which is way different than on a street with other cars. Something else is wrong with this story. The accident report says the Dodge Challenger had 6 people in it. Marquise and 5 others. What is this, a clown car? How do you fit 6 people in there? Now, both Nitro and Marquise have been suspended from the team. I reviewed about 20 of the tickets or incidences involving high speed or reckless driving over the last 2 years that are connected to the Georgia Bulldogs. Well, 3 of those charges that I reviewed, they were in the spring of 2023, and they were against Denylon Morissette. Okay, you need to pay attention to that date. That was just 4 months after his teammate died. Now, 2 of those times, Denylon was driving 30 miles plus over the speed limit, and then the final charge was for a DUI and drug possession. I should point out, arrests have happened of these players, and there are suspended licenses on these ones that I have, reviewed and overlooked. So there are punishments being handed down, but it doesn't seem to be changing the culture much. All right, one final thing. Let me know what you call spinning donuts, or do you actually call it laying drag, or do you call it doing cookies, or do you call it something else? Whatever you call it, leave it in the comments. Now to the comments. Val on YouTube said she never thought she would hear the phrase that a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old were caught stealing a car and intentionally hitting a person. You know what, Val? I wish I hadn't, and then I wouldn't have had to have reported that story. But such is the erosion of our culture. And it wasn't just the young boys stealing the car and killing a man. It was also the story I shared about the older gentleman basically being left to rot in his bed while his caregiver just ignored him. Where is the value for life today? I don't understand how we just don't care about people anymore. Then to the Girl Scout cookies. Remember I told you the story about the lawsuit and how it has bad chemicals in the cookies and blah, blah, blah. Okay, Jordan on YouTube said you would need to pry her Samoas out of her cold, dead hands. And then she went on to admit that she doesn't eat them because they're good for her. And Marlena said this year she sold 751 boxes of cookies. Holy moly, Marlena, that's amazing. And then Ember. Okay, she recommended we compare the ingredients to similar products sold in Europe. Here, there is no doubt we have extra additives in America. Other people, mention in the comments how dangerous our foods are. I get it. We definitely have that. Danny went on to second that thought, saying any ingredient that may cause cancer should not be included in our foods. And then finally to the comments. Yes, Samantha, I am Peyton's mom. Lots of my YouTube listeners have no idea about the connection between us. My YouTube channel has been pretty organic, so people are still slowly finding out that Peyton Moreland is my second child and my first daughter. So feel free to either tease her or sympathize with her about being the middle child. And I couldn't be more proud of how she is navigating life. Simply said, I love her, and I'm happy that you love her too. All right, that's your Monday episode of Rise in Crime. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining me. Please share this episode with a friend if you loved it, or you could even share one of your favorite episodes that I had already covered. I also appreciate the suggestions that I have received. There's one specific one I'm doing a deep dive on, so I'll let you know about that case later on. But yeah, thank you so much for being part of this. Go ahead and like and follow us on all of our YouTube channels and our social media channels here at Oh No Media. That's Rise in Crime, Murder with My Husband, and Into the Dark. Join me again on Thursday for more morning crime news. I'm Mama Jules, and keep safe out there.